Frenchman's done well. Robben is there! Arjen Robben!
In elite football, predictability is a death sentence. At the highest level, where every step is tracked by data and every tendency is analysed by scouts, knowing what an opponent will do is usually enough to stop them. If a defender knows your next move, you've already lost. Except if you're this man. Arjen Robben didn't have a plan B.
Frenchman's done well. Robben is there! Arjen Robben! Surely...
He didn't need one. For 15 years, he told the world exactly what he was going to do. He even showed them. And yet... the world was powerless to stop it. We've seen the goals, the memes, and the trophies, but how did a move that became so obvious remain so lethal? This is the story of the most predictable genius in football history and the geometry of a career that defied logic. To understand how Robben became inevitable, we first have to remember that he wasn't always this way. When Robben arrived at Chelsea in 2004, he was a chaotic force of nature. At PSV Eindhoven, he had already torn the Eredivisie apart, but he did it with a blur of pace and traditional trickery. Back then, he was a classic winger. Under Jose Mourinho at Stamford Bridge, Robben was raw and terrifyingly fast. He'd take players on down the outside, hugging the touchline and delivering whipped crosses with his left foot. He was dangerous because you didn't know which version you'd get. He could go left, he could go right, he could assist, or he could score. He was a nightmare precisely because he was a wild card. But Mourinho, and later Bernd Schuster at Real Madrid, began a process of refinement. They saw a player whose efficiency increased the closer he got to the goal. At Madrid, the pattern began to solidify. The inverted winger was still a relatively novel concept, but the idea was simple. Put a left-footed player on the right flank. This opened up the entire pitch. It created passing lanes that weren't there before. However, the world hadn't seen the inevitability yet. Madrid was a place of flashes, of brilliance interrupted by injury. To become a legend, he needed a home where his repetition wasn't seen as a lack of ideas, but as a pursuit of perfection. That home was Munich. One cannot tell the story of Arjen Robben without talking about the fragility that defined him. They called him the man of glass. His career was a constant cycle of brilliance, injury, and rehab. For many players, such a history would lead to a more cautious style of play. But for Robben, it had the opposite effect. Because he knew his time on the pitch was often limited, every minute had to be maximum impact. He couldn't afford to waste energy on 5 different types of dribbles. He needed the one move that was most likely to result in a goal. The cut inside became his survival mechanism. It was the most efficient way to turn a one-on-one situation into a high-probability shot. While other wingers were flashy, Robben was surgical. He didn't have time to be unpredictable, he only had time to be lethal. This physical struggle shaped his mental toughness. Every time he came back from a hamstring tear or a knee surgery, he looked even more focused on that singular, unstoppable move. It wasn't just a tactic, it was a race against his own body. Let's talk about what it felt like to actually defend against him. Most fans see the cut inside and think, why didn't the defender just block the left side? The answer lies in the psychological war Robben waged. Every time Robben faced a defender, he was playing a high-speed game of chicken. He would drive at you with such ferocious speed that your primary instinct as a defender was to protect the path to the goal. But Robben used his pace to create a false threat on the outside. Even when he reached 30, 31, 32 years old, that burst of acceleration was still there. If you overcommitted to his left foot, he would occasionally, just often enough to keep the fear alive, burn you on the outside and cross it with his right. That 1% chance that he might go. Right was the anchor that kept defenders frozen. You weren't just defending a move, you were defending a ghost. By the time your brain processed that he was indeed going left, his body was already angled. His centre of gravity was low, and he was gone. It was a mental breakdown disguised as a football match. If you want to see the inevitability in its purest form, you have to look at the 2014 World Cup in Brazil. The Netherlands against the world champions, Spain. This was supposed to be the era of tiki-taka, but Robben turned it into the era of the sprinting Dutchman. Think about his second goal in that 5-1 win. He receives the ball in his own half. Sergio Ramos, one of the greatest defenders in history, is goal side. He knows Robben wants to go left. He's been playing against him for years in La Liga and the Champions League. Yet, Robben starts his run. As he reaches the box, he does the hop, the cut, and Ramos is left sliding into a different zip code. Robben didn't just beat Ramos, he demoralised him. He took the most decorated defender of a generation and made him look like a schoolboy. He showed the entire world that knowledge of the move does not equal the ability to stop it. At that moment, Robben wasn't just a winger, he was a force of nature that the Spanish golden generation had no answer for. We cannot talk about Robben's predictability without talking about the other side of the pitch, Frank Ribery. The robbery era at Bayern Munich wasn't just about two great wingers, it was about tactical balance. Because Ribery was so dangerous on the left, teams couldn't afford to shift their entire defensive line to stop Robben. They had to stay balanced. This left Robben in his favourite scenario, the one-on-one. And then came Pep Guardiola. Many thought Pep would demand more variety. Instead, he made Robben more positional. He told Robben to stay as wide as possible until the very last second. This stretched the pitch to its breaking point. By staying wide, Robben created more space for his cut inside. When the ball finally reached him, the distance the defender had to cover was even greater. Pep also introduced the overlapping fullback. As Robben started his cut, a player like Philipp Lahm would sprint around him. This forced the opposing left-back into a split-second crisis. Follow the runner or stay with the shooter? Robben didn't just beat players, he exploited the impossible choices that the system forced upon them. He was the finisher of a collective master plan. Technically, the move was a masterpiece of biomechanics. If you look closely at his greatest goals, pay attention to his standing foot. He had this unique hopping motion. As he cut inside, he would take a tiny, almost invisible hop. This allowed him to adjust the ball's position at the very last microsecond. It made his shot impossible to block because the release point was always changing. And then there was the Robben dip. He didn't just hit the ball, he sliced it. By hitting the ball it was a shot designed to beat not just defenders, but the laws of physics themselves. To truly appreciate his greatness, we have to talk about his lowest point. The 2012 Champions League final in Munich. Robben had a chance to win it for Bayern with a penalty in extra time. He missed. 1 year later, Wembley 2013, the final against Borussia Dortmund. The score is 1-1 in the 89th minute. Robben doesn't try a new trick. He does the one thing he has done 1,000 times before. He cuts inside, dances through the defence, and scuffs the ball into the bottom corner. That goal didn't just win a treble, it validated a career. Today, the inverted winger is the standard. Every time you see Bukayo Saka or Mohamed Salah cut inside, you're seeing the DNA of Arjen Robben. But while they are brilliant, they lack that same sense of inevitability. Robben didn't care about surprise, he cared about perfection. He turned repetition into art. He was the cut inside man, and for over a decade the footballing world was just a spectator to his genius. So, what's your take? Is it more impressive to beat a defender with a trick they've never seen, or with a move they've seen 1,000 times before? Let me know in the comments.